Hello and welcome to the WriteCome.com podcast, where we help you to make money from your words. Each episode will be sharing tips, tricks, and strategies you can use to make more money from your writing, publishing, and marketing to your fans and audience. Let's get started with your host, Barry J. McDonald.
Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very welcome to this podcast episode from WriteCome.com. And today I want to ask you, whose approval are you waiting for? Now, at the moment, I have bought an audiobook over on Audible. It's by Kevin Hart, who is somebody who I would have never thought would be writing a book on a topic such as the one he's doing in this audiobook. Now, it's called The Decision, and it's in the personal development part of Audible. I had come across it by accident. Now, in this audiobook, he is going through some of his life lessons or things that he has learned over the years as, building the career that he has, or just kind of getting over maybe his lack of confidence in the early days and all the doubts and everything that he, like most of us has in the early days, doubting himself that he had any talent, doubting himself that he could ever make it, and, like most of us kind of looking down on ourselves and thinking that we don't, stand up to what everybody else is like in the business. And it's really interesting kind of listening to him kind of come out with these life lessons. If I would probably stack him up with Bob Proctor is probably a little bit more corporate. He's probably more a little cleaner anyway. He doesn't swear as much as Kevin Hart does. But Kevin Hart is more the kind of, I'd almost say he's a more kind of a street version of Bob Proctor in the audiobook that he's doing. There's a lot of great points in it. As I said, even if you aren't a great fan of Kevin Hart, you will pick up some great nuggets of wisdom in the audiobook. Now, one of the things that he had brought up was that we are always kind of looking for approval. We're always looking for approval from somebody or other before we actually do something. Now, he brought up a point that really kind of stood out to me, in that a lot of people will go to social media for approval. They will get their hair done and then they will put a picture of themselves up on social media. And as he said, approval nowadays is just the touch of a fingertip. It's not more than that. But a lot of us, unfortunately, tie that approval into whatever we're doing. And, if you do get a new hairdo or whatever, when you take a photograph of yourself and you put it on social media, you do kind of sit back and say, well, I wonder how many people are going to approve of that. And maybe if nobody approves of it, or there's a very kind of low response, well, then probably some people would probably question what they've done to the hair, and they may go back, getting something else done to the hair, and then go back again to the internet and put another picture up and then say more or less, well, what do you think of it this time? And they are kind of living like their approval along that, or even outfits, if they maybe get a good response for whatever outfit they've on or whatever dress they've bought or whatever, it's almost like they're waiting for a thumbs up from the world before they actually can enjoy it themselves, rather than just saying, you know what, I really like my hair like this, or I really like this dress, or I really like this car, or I don't care if anyone gives me the thumbs up on this burger I'm about to eat. I don't care if people say that it's probably a heart attack between two buns or whatever. It's something that I am really going to enjoy, and I'm not looking for anyone else's approval. But as he said, in this day and age when we are in this kind of big digital matrix, a lot of people do kind of look for the approval from others before they actually will maybe enjoy what they're doing, or they will look for approval before they will start. I used to find that in the early days when I took up writing, I would find maybe people who, would love to have a book of their own, would love to, hold a book of theirs in their hands, but unfortunately they are, maybe doubting themselves, and, they might come to me and then say to me, well, what do you think? Should I do a book? And of course, I would be the first person to tell anybody, follow their dreams, write the book. If you have a book in you and you feel you need to get it out there, certainly get it out there. But a lot of those people would kind of, might come up in conversation and say, well, what do you think? Do you think I should do it? And it's amazing, you don't realise it at the time when you're in conversation with somebody like that, how much power you have over the direction they are going to take in their life. For me, if I turn around to somebody and says, well, I'll forget about it. You're not talented. You've never written. Your English isn't that great or whatever. I can suddenly just shoot down somebody's kind of future or dreams with just a stupid remark like that. And sometimes we don't realise that when some friend of ours maybe comes to us or whatever, when they are looking for approval, they are kind of saying, well, what do you think? Should I do that? And, as I said, I'd always be the first one to be positive and say, go for it, give it a go and see what happens. If it's a flop, at least you've tried it, but you've got it out of your system and you've done it. But unfortunately, as I said, a lot of people unfortunately kind of look for approval for others before they will actually do it. I remember the great Dan Meredith saying when he used to do a lot of kind of turbo calls, coaching calls, he would do kind of maybe 10 or 15 minutes at a time with a load of people on the phone, and he said in 70 or 80% of those calls he would get, it was all people who had a business idea, they had a plan laid out, they knew exactly what they needed to do, but they needed approval from somebody. They needed somebody to just pat them on the back and say, yes, go for it, go and do it. They were looking for permission to get started rather than actually just going and setting off and doing it themselves. And he said 70 or 80% of those people were just sitting by not doing what they should do because they were looking for the approval from other people. So as Kevin Hart said in his audiobook, now I'm only in the beginning part of it, I probably will refer to it maybe in the future as I get a little bit deeper into it, but that was one of the things that really popped out to me, was that, everything we do nowadays, a lot of people have it tied up to approval. They're either looking for approval to get started, or if they do something and they don't get a little, approval at all, they simply give up and quit. I remember hearing one time, I don't know where it was, but it was on the subject of wealth, and that it said that, if you, again, it was one of the Stoic books or something, I had read it in, but the gist of the story was that if you had all the money in the world and you were the last person in the world, where would you live and what would you drive and what would you wear? Now, because you are the last person in the world, you will probably say, well, I'm going to live in the biggest mansion in the world, or I'm going to live in the biggest penthouse and all that. But after a while of maybe living in that penthouse, you realise then, well, it's going to need a lot of cleaning to take care of it. Maybe I don't like where it is. Maybe I would like something smaller. And you will find maybe when you aren't kind of seeking the approval of maybe the Smiths and the Joneses, maybe that you are in a kind of, the way we are nowadays, a lot of people are fortunately caught up in the rat race and are trying to compare their lives to other people. And if somebody gets a big car, well, then they have to get a big car, and they're kind of putting on a show for everybody else. But if you are the last person in the world, as it said in that piece, and you weren't in competition with anybody, you would probably just kind of float back down to your own level. You might find maybe you might go back to maybe a smaller house. Maybe you mightn't be driving around in a limousine or a big Mercedes. Maybe you would rather go around on a bicycle or something like that. Or maybe you would rather just living in a hut in the forest rather than living in some kind of big Manhattan penthouse, whatever, because you don't need to impress anybody. So to give that some thought today, if you are kind of holding yourself back, is it because that you're looking for approval to get started, or if you are kind of constantly looking for approval, what if you didn't get approval for your next couple of videos, or what if you didn't get approval for the next blog post you were writing? Would you still do it? And unfortunately a lot of people would drop out because they don't get any likes or any shares or anything from their content, because they're not getting their approval, and that's what they're actually seeking. They're looking for this kind of little pat on the head, a little pat on the back constantly all the time. It's almost like a little dog kind of sitting on the floor, wagging the tails, giving the big brown puppy eyes, and just kind of looking at their audience as if to say, please like me, please share me, please give me some recognition. But as Kevin Hart said, it's simply just a touch of somebody's finger on the screen of a smartphone. It is no big deal. It's not as if, these people are really that invested in your life and really want you to be successful ever. You're just simply going through a newsfeed and you're just a tap of a finger. But unfortunately, a lot of people kind of tie their value and everything into the approval of what other people, approve of their work or don't approve of it or whatever. So give that some thought today. Maybe if you are one of those people who is constantly running to Facebook with your new hairdo or your outfits or whatever you're doing, are you kind of constantly letting everybody else in the world kind of decide what your next step should be, or are you making those steps yourself? Are you kind of looking for the little pat on the head, or maybe you're holding yourself back, as Dan Meredith said about all those people? Are you simply looking for a kind of some approval from some audience out there before you actually get started without actually doing it yourself? So as always, if you'd like to reach out to me, if you'd like me to cover anything in this podcast episode, or if you just like to drop by and say hi, you can send an email to barryjmcdonald@gmail.com. Or if you found this podcast episode, if you want to share it with somebody else, or if you want to send a review or whatever, I would much appreciate it. And if you'd like to know what I'm up to next, you're very welcome to head over to the Facebook page, Writecom, WRITECOME.com, or the main blog itself, Writecom. You'll find all my kind of writing courses courses and everything else I do over there. So as always, thanks for giving me your time today. I'm not looking for approval today, but again, it's thank you for setting aside this past 10 minutes or so of your day to give it to me today. So it's much, much appreciated. And as always, take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like more from the Rightcome.com podcast, be sure to subscribe now for more tips, tricks, and ideas you can use to make more money from your words. See you in the next episode.